So electoral systems and rules. So an electoral voting system is a set of rules that's basically a backbone that determines how elections and referendums, which we learned about in the last unit, are conducted and how their results are determined, because not every country conducts elections in the same way. They're used to elect governments and the officials within them. So this is a very easy question for College Board to ask on the AP exam. What are electoral systems electing? Well, they're electing governments and government officials. They could say regimes and regime officials. That's not right. They could say political systems and political system officials. That's also not right. It's specifically used to elect governments and government officials. And these rules, there's certain rules that govern all the aspects of the voting process. So there's when elections occur. They could occur every 4 years, every 6 years. They could occur irregularly, or they can only occur when the ruling entity dies. Who is allowed to vote? Are men and women allowed to vote? Are only adults allowed to vote? Are only citizens allowed to vote? Who can be a candidate? Do they have to belong to a certain political party? Do they have to be a certain race, a certain religion? Do they have to be a certain age or have any experience in political science? How the ballots are marked and cast, as well as how votes translate into the election outcome. Are they proportionally set? Or is it a winner takes all if they get the most votes? There's also limits on campaign spending. Do they have to spend a certain amount, a minimum or a maximum on their electoral campaign? So what's the purpose of the electoral systems? We kind of already covered this, but a little more into that. So in some regimes, electoral rules and systems are structured to allow for a competitive selection of representatives. So in summary, we have electoral systems to maintain competitive elections and really maintain a democratic regime. That's what I'm taking away from this. In other regimes, though, the electoral systems are frequently changed to advance different political interests. In Russia, for example, in China, for example, the president in 2018 got rid of presidential term limits to advance his interests and the interests of the Communist Party. Now, that really wouldn't have made such a difference, because if his term limit had expired, they would just put in another communist president, but you can forget that. So, in the National People's Congress of China also selects members indirectly through a series of local and regional elections. So that's different from our other countries. The people select the officials that occupy the local people's offices. So they select the local individuals. That's what the people do, and that's set by the Constitution. And these people that are in the offices are responsible for selecting the National People's Congress, not the citizens. And of course, the Chinese Communist Party plays a major, major role, because the only people who have any voice, any power, are those that are in the Communist Party and support the interests of the party. There are 8 political parties that are allowed to operate within China. We haven't said this before. They are a fabricate, whatever you want to say it, of a multi-party system. They're supposed to kind of replicate it. It's supposed to appear that way. But the Communist Party is the only allowed governing party with any say whatsoever. So they're just kind of there for the inclusion, I guess. Let's go into the United Kingdom. So the United Kingdom's House of Commons members are directly elected. The House of Lords, the upper house, is not directly elected. And the House of Commons members are elected under single-member district, first-past-the-post rule. Say first-past-the-post 5 times. It's kind of fun. Now, what in the world are these systems? What's a single-member district? What's a first-past-the-post rule? I've never heard of these terms, Eason. You're teaching me stuff I never knew before. Well, calm down. I'm glad you asked what they were, because I'm going to tell you what they were. So a single-member district is where each electoral district, they have multiple electoral districts throughout the country, that is represented by a single office holder. So the people within that district elect one office holder. So if multiple districts support a certain political party, there'll be multiple office holders in the House of Commons that are part of that political party. Multiple people can run within a district, but only one person can win that district. A first-past-the-post rule is where the candidate that receives the greatest number of votes in a given constituency, a given district, is declared the winner. It doesn't have to be over 50%, but it just has to be the most. So it could be 33%. That's if the other members got like 10, 10, that's 53, and 37 if we have 4 people running. Now, if there's only 2 people running, obviously they have to get the majority. But if there's more than 2 people running, then it's just the greatest number of votes. And in the United Kingdom, elections are called for the House of Commons every 5 years, unless the government calls for another election, a vote of no confidence. And again, I'm going to reemphasize that the Prime Minister, who is the head of government, is not called in through an election. They are appointed by the majority party of the House of Commons. So Nigeria also follows a first-past-the-post system. The House of Representatives is directly elected in, again, single-member districts. And the representatives are from each of the Nigerian states. The number of representatives elected from each state is based on the population size. So the number of districts within the states are based off the population size. The Senate has 3 members that are directly elected from each of Nigeria's 36 states. So it's kind of similar in the United States, where 2 members are directly elected from the 50 states. 2 major parties have alternated control of the National Assembly in recent years, and these are the APC and the PDP, the All Progressives Congress and the People's Democratic Party. And then the presidential and National Assembly elections occur every 4 years. So that makes it easy for you. Both the legislative and executive branch are elected every 4 years. Mexico, they have the Chamber of Deputies, which has 300 members that are directly elected in single-member districts by plurality, and an additional 200 members elected by a proportional representation party list system. What is that? So plurality, which goes to the 300 members, is where they earn the largest number of votes. It doesn't mean over half the votes or half the votes are required to win. This is how the president's elected. And proportional representation on the ballots is where voters indicate their preference for a particular party, and the parties then receive seats in proportion to their share of the vote. So they don't have to win the majority. They will win seats just in proportion to the vote. So if 67% of the voters indicate a preference for the PRI party, then they'll win 67% of the seats in proportion to the votes cast upon them. And this elects multiple representatives in each district in proportion to the number of people who vote for them. And it brings in a more diverse array of political parties into the system. And it's very important to know, because the College Board loves this, that the Chamber of Deputies uses both systems. But you need to know that most of them are directly elected in a single-member district by plurality. If 1/3 of the voters back a political party, the party's candidates win roughly 1/3 of the seats. Yeah, that's just the example I gave you. This is actually the most common electoral system among the world's democracies. The Chamber of Senators is elected a little bit differently. We have 96 members elected in 3-seat constituencies and 32 members by proportional representation. So, again, both of these use proportional representation, but they're a little different in how the majority of the members are elected. Gender quotas in the party list system have helped increase female representation in the legislature. So there's been constitutional amendments, like official constitutional amendments, that have put requirements in women running for seats in the legislative system. They don't have to earn the seats, but they have to run for them. Now let's look at Russia. So the changes to the State Duma elections in Russia have returned it to a system in which half of the representatives are through single-member districts, and the other half is through proportional representation with a threshold. So you need to earn a minimum proportion to win any seats, which is a little different than what it is in Mexico. The Federation Council, the upper house, has 178 officials from the 89 regions of Russia, and they are appointed by regional authorities, or they're elected by a regional legislator, which is a little more democratic than just having 1 or 2 regional authorities electing a person in the upper house of Congress with its own systems and responsibilities in place. But it's also notable that the people here aren't directly electing the members of the Federation Council, unlike in the Duma. The president of Russia is chosen by popular vote every 6 years, pretty standard consecutive system. But Putin's permanence in the government, his prominence, if you want to say that, puts into question the legitimacy and the competitiveness of the electoral system. He's on his, 5th term? Yeah. So it's kind of interesting that he's won 5 terms. It's a lot. We're going to talk a little bit more about proportional representation. If you're a little confused on it, this should clear it up a little bit for you. So proportional representation relies on multi-member districts, multiple people running within them, because they're going to have to earn a proportion to the seats within the district. And this promotes multi-party systems, of course. So in proportional representation systems with multi-member districts, parties typically present lists of candidates to voters. Voters cast their ballot for a party rather than an individual candidate. Multi-member districts can make it easier for smaller parties to win representation. They're not going to win most of the seats, but they're going to earn some here or there. These are seats they may have not have won without a proportional representation system, with a single member voting district system, first past the post. Even if a party doesn't win a majority of the votes, they can still secure seats, and that's very important to grasp from this. And this encourages the formation and participation of multiple political parties. And they can have a realistic chance of winning seats without an outright majority. I've said this so many times already. We're not even probably 10 minutes into the lecture. I don't really know. So that should be what you're taking away from this. In Iran, the Majlis members are directly elected in single-member and multi-member districts. A multi-member district, if you probably haven't figured that out yet, is where there's 2 or more seats assigned to a given constituency. Man, I'm butchering every word today. So a single-member district is where many will enter, one will win. A multi-member district is many will enter, many will win. And by many, I mean like a few, not like 1,000 people. It's not any of those people trying to get those 3D glasses from a Nickelodeon frozen meal. I remember those. So this sometimes requires a second round of voting. Why? Because there are times where no candidate wins an absolute majority. They have to win an absolute majority. That's a big distinguishing feature of Iran's elections. They have to win 50% or higher. And these second rounds of voting are called runoff elections. And the candidates are later vetted in by the Guardian Council. And it's also important to note that the legislative body lacks political party structures. People who are elected into the political system obviously have to follow Islamic Sharia law, and political parties can dissent from this. So there's not really any political party structures within the legislative, executive, and judicial bodies of the political system. Something else to note about these runoff elections is that the people who are in them are those like the first and second place winners. So if you have 4 people running in an election, it's really just the top 2, the neck and neck people who are winning. A small number of the 290 seats in the Majlis are reserved for non-Muslim minorities, particularly Christians and Jewish people and other religious groups, to try to increase some inclusion in the legislative system. It's not a majority. The majority is still reserved for Muslims, but it's a small number of seats. And Iran reserves these seats as these groups are viewed as monotheistic religions within Shia Islam. So all of these are monotheistic, just like Islam. So they reserve some seats. They have a little similarity. They have something to bond about. Not really. Baha'is, I don't even know how you say that, are not granted a seat in the legislature because members of this group are prosecuted as apostates to Islam by the Iranian government. So if you are seen as a threat to Islam, like this religious group, you will not get any seats. So there actually has been times where runoff elections has occurred, such as in 2016. So several districts across Iran experienced runoff elections. These are not done at the national scale. These are done at the district scale due to the absence of a clear winner who won the majority of the votes in the initial round. Again, you have to win the majority of the votes. One such district was the big city of Tehran, which is a key electoral battleground due to its huge population. It's very urban, very dense, and has a huge political significance. The top 2 candidates with the highest number of votes were advanced to the second round, as I said that they would, and this was known as a runoff election, and they saw intense campaigning. It was pretty much a 1v1, and they used voter mobilization efforts as well. The runoff election in Tehran, as well as in other districts across the country, underscored the importance of a 2-round voting system and ensuring that winning candidates have significant support from the electorate. Thanks so much for watching. Please like and subscribe. It's free, which means it costs $0, and it really does help me out. Leave a comment down below with any questions. I'll be happy to answer them. There's some links down below in the description with practice tests, key terms, guided notes, all that fun stuff. Head on over to the next AP Comparative video on some really cool political stuff.